In my opinion, this is a perfect opportunity for Tyreek Hill and the Miami Police Department to come together and give a joint statement and to acknowledge that Tyreek Hill didn't open his window when the officer asked him to or ordered him to, didn't get out of the vehicle when a law enforcement officer has a right to ask you to or order you to get out of a car. And the officers can also make a joint, like I said, a joint statement with Tyreek Hill that an explanation could have been given to Mr. Hill in order for him to understand why they wanted him to do what he did, why they wanted him to do what they wanted him to do, why they wanted him to do it. And that way it educates everybody. Literally millions of people in this country can understand that officers have a right to order you out of your car, and it doesn't need to escalate to getting dragged out of your car and forcibly handcuffed and arrested. Tyreek Hill has the benefit of already being a multimillionaire. He already has that benefit. And he can use his platform and his celebrity status to educate millions of young people in this country who look up to him and admire him and prevent this from happening again to anybody else. Anybody else. Anybody, and if, of course, anybody doesn't have his platform, doesn't have his celebrity, doesn't have his money, doesn't have his fame. It'd be a perfect opportunity. But he's not going to do it. In fact, I think he's going to take it to the other direction. And they're going to blame the police. Because it was the police's fault that this got to this point, which is a horrible take. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Al. I'm a retired sergeant, canine handler, and state trooper in Ohio. And the purpose of my channel is to give you context and real world law enforcement encounters in the states. Today I'd like to go over, and I apologize for being offline for a while. I had some family stuff going on and some dog stuff going on, and I'm back, and hopefully for a while. But anyway, I wanted to talk today about the Tyreek Hill detainment and arrest that happened in Miami. Tyreek Hill is a NFL football player that was apparently on his way to play in a football game this past Sunday, and during his drive to the stadium, he got stopped by Miami-Dade law enforcement motorcycle officers that were apparently working the area and enforcing traffic law, probably because there's a problem outside of the stadium. I'm assuming that's how we would work when I was a trooper, is where there's problem areas is where you work. So they were working apparently a detail out there and stopped Mr. Hill for allegedly speeding and reckless driving. He was driving a sports car. It looks like a Ferrari or something. There's not enough context to really know how fast he was going, what constituted their interpretation of reckless driving. Was he weaving? Was he running stop signs? Was he in and out of traffic? That kind of thing. I don't know, and that hasn't been explained yet. And really, there's not a whole lot of information out there being put out by law enforcement other than the videos. And so there are a bunch of, obviously the videos are out there, but then there's also a lot of reaction videos out there on YouTube. And most of them are, or at least all the ones that I've seen, have been put out by either former NFL football players or commentators on NFL. And they've never been law enforcement officers that I'm aware of. They don't know anything about the law. They don't know anything about enforcing law. They don't know anything about traffic stops. They don't know anything about officer safety. They don't. So there's that information out there, and a lot of people are taking that as truth. So what I would like to do is review the stop, and then also review some of the reactions and refute some of the information that's being put out there. There's also some other information that's being put out there by people that are taking some, I think, honest takes on this episode or what occurred, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that somebody's looking at this practically, and responsibly, instead of it being a knee-jerk reaction to this perception of Tyreek Hill being treated as though he's a criminal, and how unfair that is, and at least in the eyes of these celebrities. So with that being said, let me pull up the first video. And the first video is Shannon Sharpe, who is a former NFL football player, and Chad Ochocinco, whose original name was Chad Johnson. He changed it when he was playing for the Cincinnati Bengals to Ochocinco, because that was his number in Spanish, Ochocinco, 85. Anyway, these two guys are reacting to a video of the stop. And the reason I want to play this is because they're articulate, they're smart guys, and they have a pretty good take on this, but they play the video, and they play it without stopping it. So I'm probably going to stop it and interpret some of what's going on with the law enforcement officers, but also they have an honest discussion afterward. And I, like I said, I appreciate that. So let me go ahead and play that video now. And also, just for context, the officers that do this enforcement activity are motorcycle officers. And the reason a lot of times motorcycles are used in heavily congested areas like this is an area outside of the football stadium is because they're obviously very maneuverable. The motorcycles they're very fast. They can get up on people quickly, and they can conduct themselves remotely off of their bike. However, and again, context here, you're going to see a lot of officers that are stopped with this vehicle, with Mr. Hill driving. And the reason I'm assuming, and I can't speak for them because, again, there's been no statements put out by them. The reason that I believe is whenever somebody is in law enforcement and they are, they put out information about somebody they're trying to stop, maybe the speeds, they're reading off the speeds that they're going. They're talking about direction of travel, what roads they're on or whatever. Other officers that are working in the area will converge, and they will assist in trying to get this vehicle stopped. And I'm assuming that that's why there's so many officers that are in proximity to this traffic stop, is because, and again, I'm assuming, I don't know, that Mr. Hill was driving recklessly and they were trying to stop him. And if it, obviously escalated into a pursuit or whatever, they'd be better suited if they were all in close proximity to the vehicle. So that's why I believe that there were so many officers. But again, there's been nothing put out by the police department about this. So let me go ahead and start the very first video that I'm going to play for you. And it's just, like I said, Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharpe. And I'll put links to these videos.
Ocho, we have the body cam footage from Tyreek's detainment was released earlier. Let's watch it in its entirety. We're going to look at the Tyreek video. We're going to have Calais Campbell's talking, and then you and I will address it after that. We're going to watch the video in its entirety so you can see how it unfolded, and then we'll give our synopsis of what we think happened.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
All right, so immediately what we have is the backup officer's cameras on to the primary officer, who's the one that made initial contact. This is the primary officer right here, if I can. This right here is the primary officer. The backup officer's camera is the one that's on. This is Mr. Hill, and the immediate conversation that's going on right now between these two is the officer asks him, "Why don't you have your seatbelt on?" And Mr. Hill says, "Don't knock on my window like that." So initially, the primary officer, knocked on the window because the window wasn't open when he walked up there. Now, obviously, whenever you're having interaction with somebody, you need to, obviously be able to see them, have a conversation with them, get their information, license, registration, proof of insurance. And if when you walk up, the window isn't open, you knock on the window. That's just common sense. That's how you get people's attention. Sometimes they don't even know you're there. So Mr. Hill is upset that this officer knocked on his window like that, whatever that means. I'm not sure if he felt that he knocked on the window too loudly or too hard or whatever. But so that's where we're at right now.
Or what? Are you holding up?
I see 4 motorcycles there. So Mr. Hill just said, I got to go. I got things I got to do. Or I take it back. He told the officer, do what you got to do. I got to go. I got a game, I think he said. So he closes his window. Now, again, I've never been a motorcycle officer, so I'm not sure. But what I'm presuming is that these 2 motorcycle officers work in tandem. They work together. And whenever one of them, or whenever they stop a vehicle together, one of them initiates contact and the other one either writes the ticket, and the one that initiates contact is the one that provides cover and security for the officer that's on the bike. Now, when you're writing the ticket. Now, when you're on a bike and you're writing a ticket, you're at a disadvantage, obviously, than what an officer would be that's in a car or in an SUV, because those vehicles are bigger. Obviously, they provide cover. You can be concealed behind a vehicle, a car. You can use it as cover. And a motorcycle, you're very vulnerable. And you're also vulnerable to other vehicles coming up behind you, either striking your motorcycle, and you're a pedestrian. I mean, you're standing out there. So again, I'm just presuming that one officer is providing cover and the other officer is going to write the ticket. However, the windows on this vehicle are so dark, and you can see, I mean, they're blacked out on this. And I guess in Florida, it's probably legal. And as part of being able to cover and provide security for the other officer, you need to be able to see the person, and you need to be able to see their hands. Make sure that they're not going in the glove box, they're not going to the center console, they're not going to the seat and getting weapons or whatever. Tyreek Hill, although he's a superstar football player, isn't exempt from the law. And also, just because Tyreek Hill is a celebrity and a star football player doesn't mean that he can't hurt a police officer or he doesn't have weapons. If history should tell us anything, is that a lot of NFL players have a history of bad behavior, felonious behavior, criminal behavior, whether that be, Henry Ruggs' crash in Las Vegas where he killed somebody and is in prison now, countless, assaults, countless traffic incidents with former NFL football players or NFL football players. So these officers have a job to do. And, part of their job is enforcing traffic laws. And also they have a duty and they have a right to protect themselves. So when they're asking to open the window, there's a reason for that. And the reason is safety. Now, one of my previous videos, I spoke about a United States Supreme Court case called Pennsylvania versus Mims. And it's the law of the land. It's the law of the United States. And it's a 1977 case. And it states that Pennsylvania versus Mims is a United States Supreme Court decision that established that during a lawful traffic stop, a police officer can order the driver to exit the vehicle and conduct a pat-down search if they reasonably suspect a threat to their safety. Now, back to the video. The officer is asking him to keep the window open so that he can keep an eye on him. And maybe there's not enough good communication between the officer and Tyreek Hill as to why he wants him to open the window. However, the officer can just ask him to open the window. And then the way that it was taught to us in our agency was ask, advise, order, and make. Now, again, the caveat is that this is a lawful traffic stop, number one, and also that the officer reasonably believes that their safety is at risk. And again, you got tinted windows, he can't see in there, he's providing safety for his partner, or cover for his partner, and I feel that it's a reasonable request to keep your windows open. Oftentimes when I made traffic stops, and I worked on the Ohio Turnpike, and there was some period of time when in Ohio we didn't have window tint law, or we didn't, we had a law that prohibited window tint, and eventually it started to go to the back window, then to the side windows, and then the front windows, like the front passenger or driver and passenger windows, could be tinted. However, oftentimes we would stop vehicles from outside of Ohio, and their window tint laws were different than ours, and they would have blacked out windows. In that scenario, sometimes I would knock on the side of the vehicle, like at the left rear quarter panel, and ask them to roll all the windows down so that I could see inside the vehicle, because it was so dark I couldn't. Now, the thing is I can explain why it is that I feel it's not safe. If this officer can explain to a judge that grants them understanding that, yes, reasonably, this officer couldn't see inside the vehicle, thus he asked him to open the window and keep the window open so that he could keep an eye on him, then that's reasonable. However, when what's his name? Tyreek Hill refuses to open the window, that triggers the officer to believe now I'm going to have to get him out of the car. And under Pennsylvania versus Mims, he can order him out of the car for his safety and the safety of the other officers. So that's why, in my opinion, this officer ordered him out of the car for his safety and for the safety of the other officers. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, I would assume, doesn't know Pennsylvania versus Mims, doesn't know that the officer is arguing about this because of his safety or for his safety's sake. So that is why the officer asked him to step out of the vehicle. When he refuses, like I said, ask, advise, order, make. He asked him, he advised him, he ordered him, and then he made him. He opens the door, and he drags him out of the car. So that's why it escalated to that level. There's a saying that criminal or law enforcement behavior can always be predicted by violator behavior. And in this case, I would also agree with that argument that Tyreek Hill is the one that took this to this point. He's the one because he's refusing to open the window and because he refuses to get out of the car, the officer made him get out of the car. That's a lawful order to get out of the car. That's why he's under arrest. And that's why he's being forcibly handcuffed. So we're going to continue with the video here.
Keep your window down.
It escalates very quickly.
Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm going to get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car.
Give me that.
Get out of the car.
Give me that. We'll break that freaking window.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. What part of law don't you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand?
I'm getting out,
You
bro.
understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you.
I'm getting
You're a little
out.
fucking confused.
I'm getting out, bro.
Too late.
Chill,
Too
bro.
late.
All right, bro. Take
Too
me to
late.
jail, bro. Do what you got to do, bro.
We are. We will.
Good, bro.
It is good.
Hey, Drew, hey,
Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. Can you stop crying?
bro. Y'all,
Now move.
good. Bro, you
Sit 'em
beating
up.
on my window like you crazy.
Just set them up.
Why y'all beating on my window like y'all crazy for?
Tyreek is complaining that the officers were knocking on his window too hard or whatever. That's a silly argument. It's a silly argument to make that I guess he's using as an excuse for him not to open his door or not to get out of the car, or I don't know. It's just, again, it's just a silly argument.
But you beating on my window like you crazy.
Just sit him up.
Why y'all beating on my window like y'all crazy for? Damn, yo, bro.
Why y'all knocking on my window like y'all crazy? That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, again, there's pedestrians walking around. They're stopping them for reckless operation, which I'm assuming is more than just speeding. And again, there's pedestrians walking around. That's one of the reasons that officers enforce these laws. And also, think about the proximity of an NFL football stadium. Now, granted, this is a couple of hours before the game, but there are more and more pedestrians walking around. There's also a lot of traffic, so there's reasons why they're enforcing laws out there.
Bro, dude beating on my window like he crazy. I ain't do nothing, twin. Damn.
Hey, don't park there. Don't park there.
Now, we have another player is pulling over ahead of the traffic stop.
I just had surgery on my knee.
Now, again, there's several officers here. One of them is talking to him, and he's telling him to sit on the curb. He's refusing to sit down. Now this officer is making him sit down. And the reason for that is that when officers make traffic stops, they're responsible for the entire scene. They're responsible for everybody's safety. They're responsible for their safety. They're responsible for their own safety. They're responsible for the violator's safety. They're responsible for the pedestrians and onlookers' safety. And when he is standing there, he can potentially become a problem or an issue, or that can become a safety concern if he decides to take off running into traffic and he gets hit by a car. Who do you think they're going to blame? You think they're going to blame him? No, they're going to blame the cops because they weren't responsible for his safety. So that's why they ordered him to sit down. That's why cops, you ever see that in law enforcement videos of traffic stops that occurred? Especially like I remember back in Los Angeles in the old days, they would show these videos of these law enforcement encounters with gang members, and they would have them all sit down on their butts with their legs crossed and conduct their interviews individually. But they would have them sit like that to prevent them from running, because it would be very hard to take off running if you were sitting down on your butt with your legs crossed and your hands behind your back. It would take you a while to be able to stand up and take off running. So that's why they're asking him to sit down, and he refuses, and then they make him sit down. So that's the reason for that.
Hey, bro, I just had surgery on my knee, bro.
I just heard you in your ears when we told you to put your window down.
Chill, bro. Hey, don't do, bro. Back up. Hey, call Drew.
See, now there's other players coming up.
Call Drew. Hey, call Drew.
He's screaming, "Call Drew, call Drew." Drew is his agent, is Tyreek Hill's agent. So he's screaming for these other players to call Drew. Now look at these players. I mean, this guy is huge. The other guy is huge. And you have these officers that aren't as physically imposing as these guys are, trying to secure the scene. They're trying to deal with him. But now you got other guys involved. Of course, the situation becomes more volatile with other people starting to become involved. And they're trying to secure the scene, get these guys away. However, they're rushing in there, I guess, to help their friend.
Bro, call Drew. Hey, call Drew, bro. Hey, what? Hey, call Drew, bro. Just call Drew. Hey. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing nothing. What am I doing that's wrong?
Hey, listen.
Take it back in the hey.
In Ohio, we have a law called obstructing official business. If these officers are engaged in work and they're trying to enforce laws, and somebody else comes in and interferes and obstructs you from being able to do your job, that constitutes obstructing official business, and it's an arrestable offense. And these guys, in my opinion, are obstructing official business. The cops don't have any business with this guy, yet he's forcing himself into the situation. So I think this guy eventually gets handcuffed as well. But he put himself there, He should not have done that. He should not have pulled over. He's creating a problem for the police officers. Now they have to focus on him.
Hey, listen, hey, man, they got Tyreek. The cops over here beating on him, man. They over here beating on Tyreek,
Listen, big
man.
man, don't park there, man. Just get in the
Hey, over
car.
here, Drew, you gotta come, man.
Just get in the car.
Right up the side, on the side of the,
Hey, get in the car. You're parked in the middle of the street.
I'm in the car.
You gotta go before you get a ticket. Hey,
I'm
you're
not
in the car.
Who's the driver? This is my car.
All right, move.
All right, I'll take that.
You gotta move right now. Let me have your license. You're gonna have a ticket too.
I'm coming.
Let me have your license.
See,
You're gonna have a
the
ticket.
officer told him, you got to move. You got to move right now. He's on the phone. He's not paying attention. He's not listening. The officer told him to get out of there, and he's refusing. Now, and if it were me, and let's say that these guys aren't NFL football players. Let's just say I'm on a traffic stop, and Uncle Joe's, stops over and starts pulling this kind of business. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to get arrested, and they're going to get their car towed. And it's not necessarily because I would want to. It's because they're making me do it, And again, it's just my take on it. I just think this is ridiculous that these guys are interfering, and they're being made out to be heroes for stopping this injustice that happened to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill created this entire situation. All he had to do was give his driver's license, keep his window open. Officer would have given him his ticket, and he'd been on his way. And that would have been it. Instead, it escalates to this.
Let me have your license.
I'm leaving.
I'm not playing. Let me have your
I'm
license.
leaving. Yo, what's
Your
going
license
on?
right now.
Tell me what's going on,
Your
man.
license right now. You're not gonna give me your license?
Hey,
the
hey,
car and leave.
You're
not gonna give me your license?
Don't you? I mean, you have to identify yourself. Law enforcement officer, encounters you, and you're blocking the road. He wants his driver's license so I can identify him and cite him as well. He's refusing. Now he's going to get arrested. And there's also, you can't be a pedestrian on a roadway. He's on a roadway.
I'm leaving.
Let me have your license.
Sorry about the commercial.
There's some feelings you can get with any sports book.
Your license right now.
Sir,
Hey, your license right now.
I'm leaving.
Or I'm gonna lock you up. Your license right now.
He just told me to
Your
leave.
license right now. You're dealing with me now.
Sir.
Your license right now.
Hey, I'm not gonna tell you to leave. I'm gonna give you one more time. If you don't leave, I'm gonna take you to jail. Listen, if you understand to me,
Get in your car and leave.
listen,
Avoid this. Get in your car and leave.
I'm giving you an order. One more time.
Get in your car and leave.
One more time. I'm giving you an order to get out of
This is
here.
the other
Hey,
player.
turn me down, right? I told you, leave.
Nope, too late. Nope, too late. I told you.
I'll move the car. I got you.
Move the car, sir, please. Please move the car.
The car has to hang out for a minute now. He's under arrest.
Hey, what's the reference? Huh? What's the reference? Yeah, careless? Because he was speeding too fast?
Move the car.
Damn, man.
That was the
Now this is Shannon Sharp, and this is Chad Ochocinco. Now you're going to hear their reaction.
entire body cam footage of the arrest. You hear him say they knew who it was. It's Tyreek Hill. He later said that he was speeding, and it kind of escalated. It escalated from there. It appears to me, Ocho, and I could be wrong. You tell me what you're thinking. Is that they asked him to roll the windows down. He rolled the window down just enough, I guess, to give him his driver's license and registration. That's all he's required to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to roll it all the way down, just so the officer can have visual contact with him. He gave him his driver's license and his registration, and he rolls the windows back up. It's tough because he knows who he is, Ocho. Because He knows who that is. He knows that's Tyreek. We hear him say they know that's Tyreek Hill.
I would argue that the backup officer knew that it was Tyreek Hill. The primary officer, because you hear the backup officer mouth something to the officers that are behind them in their motorcycles initially, it's Tyreek Hill. Like he says, it's Tyreek Hill. However, the primary officer, I would argue, may not even know who Tyreek Hill is. I mean, maybe it's obviously they're in Miami. He plays at Miami, and maybe every single cop out there knows who all the players are. But there may be some that don't. And also, it doesn't really matter. Because you're a professional football player, does that mean you get a pass and you don't get tickets and you can just do whatever you want? You can drive however fast you want. You can, close your windows and not have to listen to orders of law enforcement officers. No, it's a ridiculous argument. So these guys kind of have that take that, hey, Tyreek Hill, he's a big celebrity and he's going to the game. Give him a break. No. I mean, you're not exempt. So, again, that's why taking in this pause that Shannon has when he has to admit that Tyreek Hill opened the window, gave his paperwork, then closed the window. Now there's silence, when they're discussing that.
Officer is wants to remain. I want to have visual contact with you, Ocho. Yes. Okay, we talking. I got visual contact.
Safety.
You got your window down enough where I can see you. Now it looks like, I could be wrong, but it looks like he has tinted window.
Yeah, in Miami, we allowed the tint.
Window tint.
And so it looks like I guess the officer is taking into account, because you have to understand the officer is taking into account. He rolls the window back up. Now I no longer have visual contact with him.
Yes.
So okay. Take it from there, and then I'm gonna piggyback off of you. Go ahead.
I mean, when it first started, obviously, license registration, roll your window down. Tyreek upset about them knocking on the window, obviously aggressively in an aggressive manner. But when the cop initially walked over, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Tyreek.
If you don't want the cop to knock on your window, then open the window. I mean, that's the whole reason he's knocking on the window, so you open the window. Open the window, that way the cop won't knock on it.
Tyreek hand him the driver's license. So at that point, Tyreek rolled the window back up. Now, as an officer, I understand that it is Tyreek Hill, but I don't think a civilian, if civilians don't get any grace, then I don't think they're going to give Tyreek Hill any grace to allow him to roll his window back up to where he can't have any.
Tyreek Hill can kill you as quickly as anybody else could kill you. So he doesn't get a pass because he's Tyreek Hill.
Lose visual contact with him.
Even though Tyreek isn't a threat in this manner, I'm assuming have to always stick to protocol regardless of who the person is. Right. But I would have liked my dog understanding you got a game. You know how authority is already. You know how cops are in general. With all the situations that have gone on, countless years back to back to back to back to back, just this one time. But I got a game to play, bro. Here's my license, here's my registration.
So Chad's take is Tyreek should have recognized the fact that he's got a game, and in order to avoid any problems, just complied and just done whatever. Now, what I don't like is his thing, what he's arguing now is that how these cops be. You know how they act. How do they act? They order you to get out of the car, which is a lawful order. They ask you to keep the windows open so they can keep their eyes on you. That's unreasonable, apparently, to Chad Ochocinco? No. Ridiculous.
Get your ticket and go on about your business.
Yeah.
Get your ticket and go on about your business. Let's lock in on the game. You feel me? But cooler heads didn't prevail.
Correct.
Then your teammates getting into it.
Correct.
Obviously, rightfully so. But hell, if I was a teammate, I would I pull my black ass over too. What's the problem?
For sure. I've been in that situation where, like I said, we got into a brawl and my teammates, and they're telling us to back up because at that point in time, police got to make instant. They got to make split seconds.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, see, you have the luxury of sitting back here watching it. But imagine how his antenna goes up when he's there. And we assume, like I said, he doesn't have that luxury. Once I lose contact with you, Ocho, I don't know if you go into the glove box. I don't know if you go into the middle box. I don't know anything. I want to maintain visual contact with you. That's why I said, you heard what I said last night, and you heard me say it many, many years ago. My job, once I get pulled over and the police have made contact with me, my job is to get him to my car, back to his police car or his motorcycle, and on his way as quickly as I possibly can. I know the longer he remains there, the greater the chance is for something to escalate.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, look, and think about this, and I want people in the chat, I want you to understand what I'm talking about. Think about how people hate on you and they don't have any power. Do you realize when that man or that female pull you over side the road, they got all the power?
Gun, with the badge. With the gun, with the badge.
I'm not arguing with you. I can't. You're the lawyer. You're the judge. You everything. I'm gonna take my chances in court, but I'm gonna take my chances in court as a live person. I don't want my family trying to defend what transpired. Nah.
I appreciate that argument because we're not going to try this case on the side of the road. We're not going to have a judge out here to determine whether or not I'm right or you're right. He's saying, I'm not going to argue with you. We're going to concede that you have the authority, that you're going to write whatever ticket you need to write. You're going to arrest me if you need to arrest me. I'm not saying anything. I'm not defying you. I'm not arguing with you. And I'm not contradicting everything that you say or do. And then I'm going to fight you in court. And that's the way it should go in every single scenario in this country. But it rarely, or I'm not going to say rarely, but there are these instances where people are apparently too special to comply. The law doesn't apply to them. They're exempt for whatever reason. And then it escalates to this level. I'm going to argue that the cops were in the right in this scenario. I'm going to call it like I see it. If the cops were wrong, I'm going to say that they were wrong. But I just don't see that they did anything wrong here. They're doing their jobs, and Tyreek Hill is preventing them from doing their job. And these other players that are stopping are preventing them from doing their job and handling business with Tyreek Hill.
I need to be there to tell the story, not you tell it. Now, I knew what was going to happen. I knew this. They were going to say, we asked him to roll down the window, and he was defiant in rolling down his window in a timely manner. I knew that was coming, Ocho. Yeah. I knew that was.
It has nothing to do with timeliness of rolling down the window. It has to do with officer safety. And he's straying from that argument. He made that argument earlier, but now he's straying from it. And he's saying that the officer's agenda was to pull him out of the car, and they're using the window timeliness as an excuse. And that's just a bad take.
Coming. You know that, I know that. That's why I'm speeding. Hey, it's happened. I rolled down my window. When he comes, I got it waiting on him. Hey, you ain't got to ask me.
That's how we should have handled it.
It's right over my visor. I got my driver's license in my bag. I got the insurance right there. There it is right there.
It even had to go to that, though. You talk about abuse of power, even as officers of the law, understanding who the individual is, understanding that the individual is no threat. There's a game. He was speeding. I don't think he was late. He couldn't have been late because the other players.
No, he wasn't late because Calais, we had Calais on today, Ocho. We had Calais on today. He said it was around. They had to be there by 11 because the game is at 1:05.
These guys are making the argument that because Tyreek had a game, he's no longer a threat. And that's ridiculous. It's a stupid argument to make because anybody's a threat at any time. I don't care who you are. You're a threat. That's how, and unfortunately, that's the way that law enforcement mindset has to be, because the second you let your guard down is when you get hurt or you get killed or somebody else gets hurt or killed. So it's a bad take.
2 hours before the game, he said it was around 10:18, 10:20, something like that. So he's a good 2 hours and 32:45. and the stadium is a block away.
And that's unfortunate, man. A little aggressive though for me too.
Oh,
Just
for
a little
sure.
a little too aggressive. I wish there was a cop there that could have de-escalated the situation a little bit better. You know, to allow cooler heads to prevail. Just a little too aggressive and abusive of the power that they did have. To put behind the back and to put the knee in the back and like, come on now, come on,
Yeah.
man. You know, but
How long did he have the foot on the back? He dragged him out of the car. He put him on the ground to forcibly handcuff him. At that point, he's under arrest for failing to comply with a lawful order of a law enforcement officer. He had his foot on his back or his knee on his back for seconds. This guy gets tackled by 300-pound guys every week and at practice. I mean, he's been a professional football player for years. And then to use the excuse that, you know, he just had surgery on his knee, and that's why he couldn't sit down. He had to have passed a physical at some point in order to become to get to play. He played that night. I mean, that day, you know. So it's just stupid.
it's unfortunate. It's
Oh,
unfortunate.
Joe, that's how it is. Think about it. If there's a pack of dogs and one of them bite, all of a sudden the other will join in.
Oh yeah, every time.
When you were in school, the bully.
It's funny that they make this argument because he's talking about a pack of dogs and one of them bite. So he's making the argument that one cop was aggressive, then they were all going to become aggressive. Well, here we have a scenario where Tyreek Hill isn't complying. Now you have all these other players that are stopping, and they're not complying either. So we can turn this around.
And once they started picking on somebody, then everybody started picking on them. The officers are just the same. Once one get aggressive, the other feels emboldened, and he gets a little bit more aggressive instead of trying to.
There's no evidence that any officer became aggressive after one officer allegedly became aggressive. Tyreek Hill wasn't listening. That officer reacted.
Escalate the situation. Say, hey, Mr. Hill, we understand. We understand you're frustrated. We got a game. Just let us do our job, and we'll get you on your way. We'll issue you a citation. Hey, the date's going to be on there. You can fight it in court. Move on. That's what you would have liked to happen. But it seems like once, well, hell up. I can't let you get all this aggression out on him. Let me get some. I said get on the ground. You heard what I said?
I mean, and we've seen this so many times, and the outcome and most of the other situations were much different. They were much different. So I'm glad it did.
I still don't understand why they put a knee on his back. I don't understand. He wasn't struggling. People don't understand. Lay on your stomach and put your hand behind the back and see how you feel, because that's an unnatural position. Because your diaphragm needs to go up and down. That's why it's hard for you to breathe when you're on your stomach. Now think about it. Now you sleep like this here, but just imagine putting your hands behind your back, and now you're compressing the diaphragm. Tyreek wasn't struggling. He didn't give them any reason once they got him out the car to take the stance in which they took.
If he didn't want cops back, knees on his back, then he should have just complied.
You done made me open this. Man, you done made me open this door. Get your ass out of this car. You know how
they was frustrated. They was frustrated. You know, I think it all it escalated
like
when he
said,
rolled the window back up.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was on one then. He's like, oh no. Oh, you rolled the window up in my face.
But listen,
you rolled the window up in my face. Okay, I got something for you. Get your ass out.
He had his license already, so there was nothing else to really talk about.
Again, it's a safety. This is a safety thing.
And run. You already knew who it was.
You heard him say that's Tyreek Hill. You heard him in the video.
They made the argument themselves.
I just wish
that cops aren't going to change protocol because it's a celebrity.
Tyreek, let this be a lesson learned. Anybody that's watching, let this be a lesson learned. I understand. Nobody likes being stopped, especially when you're in a hurry or you don't feel you're doing anything wrong. But take it to court. I've gotten stopped. I didn't believe I was speeding. Right. I said,
and you know how to.
I've said to myself, I see you in court.
You know how to
I said I was. The judge said, "Well, Mr. Sharp," I said I wasn't speeding. I said, he didn't tell me how fast I was going. He just said I was traveling faster than him. Well, how fast was he going? Just because I'm going faster than you, that don't mean I'm speeding.
That's a good one.
That's what he told me, Ocho. I said, okay, I'm going to court. I ain't finna spend all my time side the road with you, all that talking and going back and forth. I'm going to keep my mouth closed. I'm going to tell my side of the story. Nobody's going to tell Shannon Sharpe or what they think happened or what they surmised happened. I am going to tell my story. I'm going home to my kids.
Yeah.
I'm going home. So remember what you what you want to happen. When the police comes and they pull you for speeding or any moving violation, your job is to get them to your car, back to their car as quick as possible.
Always.
With as little talking as possible. Because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to be, because if you ask me how fast I was going, I say, no, I do not. I wasn't watching. He gonna think I got smart with it. Now he's all, oh, you want to get smart. You're uppity. You know what? You think because you on TV, you think because you got millions, you better than me and you can talk to me. So no, I don't know how fast I was going. I said, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was going that fast, officer. All right, sit right here. You sure will. Leave that window down too. I sure do.
In the court of public opinion, people are going to choose their sides based on who they think is right, who they think is wrong. I just, on my end, how I am. I don't play with the law. I don't play with the law.
Yeah.
I don't want no part of you. I don't want no part of that at all. I want to get home to my kids, bro. Always.
That's
I want to
it.
get home to my kids. I can't afford no more mistakes, huh?
I had a situation that was the 4th of July.
You ain't hear me though.
It was me. Oh, yo, no, you're right.
Let me take my glasses off real so the chat can see my eyes, boy. I can't afford no more mistakes. I don't get more chances after this. Shit, man, shit.
You can't get knocked down and get up again. Not at the age we are, Ocho. In our 20s, we got the rest of our 20s, we got into our 30s. But at this juncture where we are now, Ocho, I was it was a 4th. This was a while ago. This had to be.
I'm gonna quit watching this one just because they're not really talking about this anymore. It's almost over anyway. I'll put a link in the description to this video. I agree with some of their takes. I don't agree with some of their other takes. But I'd like the argument that he made that you need to make the argument in court, not on the side of the road, because you're not going to win, especially if you're in the wrong, and in this case, Tyreek Hill was in the wrong for not keeping his window open and for not opening his door and getting out of the car when the officer ordered him to. He ordered him to for his safety. So at least that would be my argument if I was the officer. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes and because I've already seen statements made by the Miami Dolphins, and their statement was kind of out there. And in fact, let me see if I can find it.
Almost 20 years ago.
I'm not sure if it's on this one, but there's a statement put out by the Miami Dolphins where they said that the officers were unreasonable and aggressive.
Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was detained by police Sunday outside Hard Rock Stadium for a driving violation, but was released from custody before Miami's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hill said he was pulled over for allegedly speeding roughly 3 hours before the game kicked off. He was ultimately placed in handcuffs after a verbal altercation occurred and was cited for reckless driving. Tyreek scored a touchdown pass on an 80-yard pass play from Tua in the third quarter and appeared to reenact his detainment to celebrate his touchdown. Fellow wide receiver Jalen Waddle walked
has knee problems
as Hill held his arms behind his back like he was in handcuffs. Hill finished the Dolphins' 2017 victory with 100.
How mature is this? They're making fun of the fact that he got arrested. There are young, impressionable kids that are watching this and think that it's funny and that the same rules apply to them. This guy is a multi-millionaire. This guy. Oh, both of these guys are. And he could have easily paid this stupid traffic ticket off had his accountant pay for it, right? Instead, it becomes a joke and a meme, an indictment of law enforcement for doing their jobs. He's making a joke out of it.
30 yards receiving on 7 receptions. Tyreek wants to turn this into a positive.
He wants to turn this into a positive.
Right now, I'm still trying to put it all together. So I'm not going to give you a version that I still don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying?
He don't know what happened. He has no idea what happened. Other than, he didn't listen, he didn't comply, but he doesn't know what happened. Now he's going to give you a version of what he believes, and what he believes is that if he wasn't the celebrity that he is, then it would have turned out much differently. How about this take? How about you just do what the cops tell you to do, and then everybody will be fine. You and the other person that isn't Tyreek Hill.
But I do want to say, I do want to be able to use this platform to say, like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill, bro? Like, worst case scenario, Cause
talk about a narcissist.
It's crazy. Like, I want to be a cop one day. I got a state trooper hat, all that, so I got a lot of respect for cops, man. But
he wants to be a cop someday, and he's got a state trooper hat. I got a state trooper hat too, I was actually a state trooper. And if you want to be a cop, good luck. You're not going to live long if you're a cop. With the attitude and the takes that you have, you're not going to live long because you don't know anything about being safe, and anything about the law.
Obviously, everybody has bad apples in every situation.
I'm driving to the game. The lane I'm in is blocked off. I see Tyreek, in handcuffs.
This is one of the guys that interfered.
It was excessive force. So then I get out the car, kind of just trying to de-escalate the situation. And I think the officer, I don't know why he felt the need to put me in handcuffs, but, it is what it is.
I'm just glad that my teammates were there to, support me in that situation because I felt alone, and when they showed up, it made me realize that we got a good team this year, dog.
So the fact that other players stopped and interfered was a good thing in his mind. I don't know who this guy is, but he has a statement about this incident, and I don't agree with it, but here, I'll let you listen to it.
That was unnerving just watching it again. Yeah. Honestly, it just to piggyback what Dominic says.
Damian Woody, never heard of him.
A lot of black folks can really understand how Tyreek Hill feels in that moment. We've all, I think most black folks have had incidences where you've been uncomfortable in those type of situations. I think the thing that stands out to me in that situation is how ego in that situation can really inflame everything that's going on.
I would agree. However, he is pointing to the law enforcement officer's ego and ignoring Tyreek Hill's ego and his defiance and his reluctance to listen to lawful orders. Those are lawful orders to keep the window open so that he could keep his eye on him and to get out of the car. Those are lawful orders. And now it's because of the law enforcement officer's ego. They're trying to flip it. And they're trying to say that this is the cop's fault. Tyreek Hill's apparently completely innocent according to these guys. And this is crazy because this is the take that they all take. All of these people on this panel take the same take, that the cops were out of control.
Because, Dominic, you talked about police jobs. And listen, I don't want to underestimate how hard it is to be a police officer. There's so many things that they have to deal with that I know I wouldn't be able to. I
agree. You wouldn't be able to
deal with it. Right. But in that situation, it's your job first and foremost to de-escalate the situation. I think Tyreek.
No, first and foremost, your job is to stay safe. That is your first and foremost job, is to stay safe and to keep everybody else safe. That is your first and foremost job. It's not to not ruffle feathers and not hurt people's feelings. That's not your job as a cop. Your job as a cop, your primary job as a cop is to keep everybody safe. It's your primary job. So they're saying that it's their primary job to de-escalate. No, it's not. And I would argue that Tyreek Hill escalated this. The cops didn't escalate this. He did.
Tyreek Hill's, maybe he was a little bit aggressive in the way he was talking initially. But I think ultimately as a police officer, it's your job in this situation to say, you know what? I'm literally stopped. It's a traffic violation.
Yes.
How do you go from a simple traffic violation?
Tyreek Hill took it to that.
Basically pulling a man out of his car.
He did listen to commands.
Handcuffing him face down on the pavement, then forcibly, when the man is telling you, like, listen, I just had knee surgery, and you're still, like, forcibly, being aggressive to that man, like, none of that is necessary. And
again, the whole sitting down thing, it's a safety thing to keep them from running out in traffic or running away or whatever. They're trying to protect them and protect everybody else. And instead it turns into the cops are being overly aggressive. Well, they asked him to sit down. They ordered him to sit down, advised him to sit down, and made him sit down. And it was all Tyreek Hill.
And so for me, again, I'm watching that and I'm like, damn, like, here we go again. Why is this happening again? And all I can say is, I thank God that
in my opinion, this is a perfect opportunity for Tyreek Hill and the Miami Police Department to come together and give a joint statement and to acknowledge that Tyreek Hill didn't open his window when the officer asked him to or ordered him to, didn't get out of the vehicle when a law enforcement officer has a right to ask you to or order you to get out of a car. And the officers can also make a joint, like I said, a joint statement with Tyreek Hill that an explanation could have been given to Mr. Hill in order for him to understand why they wanted him to do what he did, why they wanted him to do what they wanted him to do, why they wanted him to do it. And that way it educates everybody. Literally millions of people in this country can understand that officers have a right to order you out of your car, and it doesn't need to escalate to getting dragged out of your car and forcibly handcuffed and arrested. Tyreek Hill has the benefit of already being a multimillionaire. He already has that benefit. And he can use his platform and his celebrity status to educate millions of young people in this country who look up to him and admire him and prevent this from happening again to anybody else. Anybody else. Anybody, and if, of course, anybody that doesn't have his platform, doesn't have his celebrity, doesn't have his money, doesn't have his fame. It'd be a perfect opportunity. But he's not going to do it. In fact, I think he's going to take it to the other direction. And they're going to blame the police. Because it was the police's fault that this got to this point. Which is a horrible take. Because this is not going to do anything for anybody else. This is going to embolden people to believe that this is the way to go. And I have one more video that I want to show you. Oh, let me see. There might be another one. Oops. I'm going to skip the Stephen A. Smith one. This guy, Night Talk, and I was just looking at videos of reactions to the Tyreek Hill incident, and this guy's take, I love it, and he's real, and he is raw, and I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but I'm going to put it in the down description. He puts it all together in a very, very eloquent way in his lead up to his entire video.
You put more black men in danger by acting that way with this entitled ass diva behavior, bro. I'm too special to deal with the cops. I'm above the law, motherfucker. I can speed. Don't knock on my window, bitch. You see this Lamborghini or this Ferrari? You a cop? Don't touch my. That's what that get about, bro. Like you dictate it, dog. So now all these kids, all these little black kids that look up to you are gonna go back and play it over and think that they're in the right for doing the same thing your ass do next time they find themselves in a situation with the police. And what's that gonna lead to, my guy? What's that gonna lead to, my guy? Because everybody ain't Miami Dolphins. Everybody ain't Tyreek Hill. Everybody ain't got the funds. Everybody got the support. Everybody ain't got the platform. You know what I'm saying? To make a move. You gonna put that many more motherfuckers in the dirt, and you gonna put that many more motherfuckers in jail because you out here glorifying this bullshit, playing victim, bruh.
Preach, dude. That was incredible. And I admire the fact that he took it there and admitted that this is not going to lead to anything good if you continue to make these kinds of arguments. And the craziest thing to me is that the NFL is taking this stance as well. Instead of understanding that this is just going to make things worse because other people are going to be emboldened by this kind of behavior. And I really wish that there were people that were looking at this as a teachable moment and instead are turning this into an indictment of law enforcement. Because what can happen is if this is turned around and this is pointed to as the cops are out of control and this cop gets fired or this cop gets charged for something or whatever, what you're going to have is you're going to have a backlash, and Miami is going to turn into Chicago, where the cops are going to recognize that their agency doesn't have their back, their mayor's office or city council or whatever, if all these people come after the cops, the cops are going to shut down. And they're not going to do their jobs. And they're not going to do their jobs because they recognize that there's no point in doing their jobs. Because if they do their job, then they're going to get in trouble. I don't see anything that the cops did wrong on this video. Maybe they hurt some feelings. Maybe it was perceived as being overly aggressive. However, they reacted to the action by Mr. Hill. And if Mr. Hill wouldn't have done that, they wouldn't have reacted the way they did. So again, it's just my take. And, I'm just a retired guy that has seen a lot of stuff and recognizes BS when I see it. And that's my take on this. And I want to thank you for if you stuck around this long, for watching this video. I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. I want to grow this. I want people to recognize why cops are doing what they're doing, and also for people to be a little bit more educated about the law and also understand why sometimes things escalate the way they do, why the cops are reacting the way that they are. As a cop, you have a right to live. You have a right to protect yourself. And sometimes that entails ordering people to get out of cars. So again, that's my take on this. I appreciate you watching. Ask you to like the video. Ask you to subscribe to my channel. Ask you to comment. If you have a different take on this, I would love to hear what your take is. And if it's reasonable, I'll respond. I look at my comments on my channel. I respond when people are reasonable. If people are stupid and have a ridiculous take, I'm going to call that out, or I'm not even going to respond to it. So again, thank you for sticking around till the end. And I'm going to edit this a little bit because I think it's a little too long. But thank you, and I'm going to put the links to all these videos. I encourage you to watch them and listen to these takes by these folks that have never been cops before. So again, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.